Depending on the length of this meeting, could we have a brief executive session to talk about business office personnel?
Item number 12.
Okay, anything else? If none, communication and public comment. I don't see anyone from the public here. Moving right along, reorganization of the board. First up is the election of a chairperson. Do I have any nominations? Mr. Breyer.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Molly Bennett for the position of chair.
Second the nomination.
Any others? I have a second for Molly. Any other nominations for chair?
Mr. Superintendent, I move nominations be closed and ask you to cast one ballot for Molly Bannock as chair.
Okay, acting chair will submit
I
one
should
ballot.
probably have a second and a vote.
Yeah, I
guess.
believe you have to
You have
for
a
that.
second?
So I'll second that.
All in favor of electing Molly Bannock as chair of the Bellows Falls Union High School Board? Aye.
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 Opposed? Molly, the floor is yours.
I hope you speak louder than Pratt.
I have a voice that can speak up. Can you hear us, Priscilla?
Yes.
Okay.
Put my alternates in.
We need an election of a vice chairperson.
Madam Chair, I'll put in a motion to have Deborah Wright as vice chair.
I will second that motion.
Any others?
Well, once again, I would like to move nominations be closed and direct the chair to cast one ballot for Deb Wright as vice chair.
And I will second that.
All those in favor of Deb Wright for vice chair, please say aye.
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 The next election is for clerk.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion for Priscilla Lambert to be the clerk.
Molly, I'd like to continue as clerk if that's okay.
Okay, Deb has just made that nomination.
Okay.
You can second your nomination.
Would you like to second that?
No.
No. I'll second it.
No, we got a second. And I believe David is going to tell me to close it.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor of Priscilla Lambert as clerk, please say aye.
Aye.
You are the clerk.
Thank you.
Now we need an assistant treasurer.
Can I inquire who is the
is?
current or was the current assistant treasurer?
Currently, it's Jack.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we have Mr. Breyer continue his candidacy as treasurer.
Because I get to sign
Assistant
checks.
treasurer.
Or assistant, excuse me.
Second.
Close
I would-
nominations.
Jack's
Direct
gonna-
He's got his part down.
the clerk cast one ballot for Jack Breyer as assistant treasurer.
I'll second that.
We have a motion on the floor with a second to have Jack Breyer be the treasurer and for the clerk to cast one vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Treasurer.
Appoint voting members of the SU board.
Who are the current members?
David, Deb, and Brenda.
I would be certainly willing to continue. It's an interesting time.
Priscilla, do you want to be on the SU board?
I was for Rockingham last year, and I think I probably can be for Rockingham. So If
You'll
you
have a
have
vacancy.
3, that's fine. If not, yes, I would do it. But
I'm willing to
if you
continue.
have 3 people that
Deb
would
and
like to,
David.
that's fine.
Okay,
Still need a third.
we have Deb and David right now,
I show up at the meetings anyway.
yeah,
If that's useful.
and I don't,
Well, Brenda was a third, but.
Well, that's right, she was.
Brenda's, I guess,
I
out for a
could
couple
do
of
it,
weeks.
and somebody
right?
else from the Rockingham board could possibly do it. But it's,
Okay.
you know, if you
Okay.
have 3, that's
I
fine.
think we have Deb, so,
I'd be willing to do it.
If we're under
but-
discussion, unless there's someone else at the table with a burning desire, I would see no reason not to reappoint Brenda, and
Yeah.
we certainly can sub as necessary.
I
What-
support that.
Days are the meetings usually?
Wednesdays.
Wednesday.
Wednesdays. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's.
I mean,
out
if
for me.
anybody's burning to do it, I can drop off, you know, just one less board meeting for me, just saying.
Yeah, I'm open, and then just.
Although I'm perfectly willing to do it.
Do we need a motion to appoint or?
I think it's the chair's prerogative to
He
appoint.
has all three.
so we have 3 right now, David, Deb, and Brenda. And there's several of us here that will alternate when
Yeah.
we need to. I mean, I show up to most of them, Jack's at most of them. Do we have to appoint that before the meeting?
It's helpful.
I mean, that's the only thing, is we don't know if somebody's not coming.
Right.
I mean, Brenda's not gonna be at meetings for a while, I believe. Next month?
Okay.
Oh, good.
So you could appoint a temporary for Brenda for
You
the
fill in at that
reorganization
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will fill in whenever Brenda can't. Just communicate with me and I'll come. So Priscilla, you're more than welcome to come, but we took you off the hook on that voting.
Okay, that sounds great.
And if there's enough notice in advance, I can fill
And
in too.
I will attend definitely.
So,
But
just
I
let me
was
know.
on as a Rockingham representative from the Rockingham board last
So she
year.
might be on the end.
And
Okay.
I had told,
Yeah.
and I had told them that I would like to continue, so we'll see what happens there.
Okay. All right, so we have our SU voting board members, David, Deb, and Brenda. And now we need to appoint a truant officer. Mr. Pratt?
Really?
Currently, it's Bellows Falls Police Department.
I'll move that motion that we continue with the Bellows Falls Police Department as the truant officer for Bellows Falls Union High School.
Second?
Nominate you. Sure
There's a motion made and seconded to have the Bellows Falls Police Station, Bellows Falls Police be our truant officer. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Appoint representatives to the Technical Center Advisory Councils.
I'm
Currently, we
willing
have
to
David
con-
for RBTC and Margot for WRCC.
I'm willing to continue.
And David is too, he's nodding his head.
Yes, it gives me an inside line on what's happening up there. And I realize this is not directly germane, but I want to just make a point that Chris Pratt has attended more meetings as a superintendent from Wyndham Northeast than the rest of the superintendents combined. So we have
Thank you,
really
Chris.
good support up there.
Thank you, David.
Oh, They noticed, Chris.
So do we need to vote on that appointment?
I think it's an
It
appointment.
just, yeah. So you're
Yeah, I'm happy to
the
continue.
River Valley Tech, and Margot's gonna be the, what is Wyndham
Regional Career Center.
Regional Career Center?
In case you've been keeping track, they had a RAB meeting scheduled that got canceled. So
Oh,
it's,
they got
it was
canceled?
supposed to be for tomorrow, I think,
yeah,
and they
it got
canceled.
canceled?
Yes.
It's a good thing I
Nice
have
to
it on
know
my
in advance,
calendar.
yay.
Okay, appoint warrant signers.
I would like to offer a motion.
Okay.
And the motion is to direct the chair to, let me rephrase that. My motion is to have any two members of this board sign on behalf of the board and to have the chair make those appointments.
Okay.
Is second for that?
It is a
You made a
motion.
motion, so.
Motion second.
So there's a motion on the floor to have the chair
David Clark moved that any two members of the Bellows Falls Union High School Board may sign on behalf of the board, and that the board chair make those appointments.
Perfect. Any discussion? Is there anybody that would like to do that, wants to be on that call list?
Currently, it's Deb
Is
Wright and Jack
that
Breyer.
legal, or are we required to vote on somebody?
Well, that's a wonderful question. I don't know.
A wonderful question.
I believe his.
Only
Can I-
ask
can I
wonderful
respond- If I would
questions.
like to respond to my distinguished colleague from Athens, and I think that Stephen is suggesting that perhaps the designee should be voted on, and my response to him is that an abundance of caution says, why not do it?
Not do it what?
Well,
Have
in other
them
words,
elected.
Vote on it.
Reflect the popular will.
Well, isn't that the difference from the motion you made? The
I
motion
don't
is
think
for
we're
the
all
chair to
taking this
appoint.
very seriously.
my motion was to direct the chair to appoint any two members to sign on behalf
So
of
if you
the
guys are
board.
both gone, we can appoint two other people that week.
And Steve Fine is raising the question of whether they need to be voted on. I don't have an answer. And if Steve Fine can craft a motion that would cover it, I'd be happy to withdraw mine. I guess he's not going to.
Is he thinking
Okay.
about it? He's thinking.
We're getting feedback through the phone here, so
Yeah.
This is the delay of the meeting.
looks like you found it.
So who are the current two?
The current two are Deb and Jack. And are you two still able to do that?
It does say appoint
Okay,
on the agenda. It says appoint.
it does.
I would just say that whether appointed or elected, I have been doing it for a while. I think it's important. If, to the extent that the treasury thing is anything more than symbolic, it's one of the things that I pay attention to because it just helps. Certainly this past year it became very helpful when things were a little off the rails for a bit, and I'm willing to continue that.
Mr. Clark, it does say appoint. Do you think we need a motion for this? Do you,
I
is
I
it
think
okay
you could
to-
appoint.
to take your motion off the floor?
Well, my motion is to,
Recommend to the
to,
chair that she would do this
my motion, what was my motion, Josh?
David, your motion is that any two members of the Bellows Falls Union High School Board would be able to sign on behalf of the board, and that the
May I
board.
speak to my motion? And that is because without that motion, it would require a majority of members of the board to sign, which would be 6. That's a
Okay.
lot of bodies
A
to
lot
get
of
up
people.
to.
Okay, I understand
no.
then. All right, so we have a motion on the floor and seconded to have Deb and Jack be the warrant signers. And if that cannot happen, I will get 2 more people to do it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed?
Is your hand up to oppose your motion?
No, it's comfortable.
It's resting.
Molly, did we
Shoulder.
actually vote on the WNESU representatives?
No, they wouldn't.
No,
they
because
were
really it's an
appointed.
appointment. We don't have to
Oh,
vote.
we don't have to do that
Yeah,
for an
we just
appointment?
made this appointment into a motion.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Next on is set time and date and location of regular monthly meetings.
Is this the second, is this the second Monday?
Currently, it's
Second
right now
floor.
second Monday at 6:30.
6:30.
Oh, is it only the second, not the fourth also?
And only 4th if needed, correct?
Correct.
I got a hand over here.
Molly, if I may.
Yes.
Keep in mind too, we are approaching spring slow but surely, and summer schedule. As far as I know, I think we only met once this summer, maybe twice, and if we needed more.
Yeah, we
just-
won't meet unless we have to,
Right.
but we gotta
Okay.
have it on the schedule.
No, absolutely. I
There's
just
so
wanted
much
to
going on. We have
keep
to
in
this
mind.
summer.
No, that's fine. Just
It's the primary.
Right, yeah. Okay, so we have established that the second Monday of every month at 6:30 at the Bellows Falls Union High School, and the 4th Monday, if needed,
Yeah.
for our meetings.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
maybe we've already moved in on this, but I know that 4th meeting, or that 4th Monday, we've used for budget and other purposes, And I would encourage you or whoever sets those meetings to schedule them then, simply because it's not this time, and it's also work that needs to get done every year.
Yep. We will. We'll keep that date available for us. Do we have to vote on that? You setting the time? No. Okay. Establish the newspaper to be used to announce the school board functions and activities.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion that we appoint the Eagle Times as the official newspaper.
Right now you have the Reformer and the Times.
Oh, we have both, that's right. We do go back and forth on this every year, but as Mr. Breyer is going to speak in one moment, but Eagle Times does cover a lot of Bellows Falls area, so I don't know. Now, is there a cost effect to having both, or I can't?
This gives you more options.
Okay.
Just as, yes, we do speak about this every year.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'll make them. Well, I was unaware of the both papers, so I will make the motion again, if I may, that Eagle Times and Brattleboro Reformer be the official paper for the use of announcements for the school board functions and activities.
David seconded.
Mr.
Breyer.
With that slight amendment to the motion, I'm completely supportive of it.
Anybody else have any? All those in favor of having the Eagle Times and Brattleboro Reformer as our newspapers to be used to announce school board functions and activities, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Nobody. Committee assignments. Educational effectiveness.
Who currently is on that?
Currently, right now, Stephen Major and Brenda Farkas.
So somebody's gotta sign up for that one.
What is that committee?
The idea, that committee in the past has been both to focus on reviewing things like test scores, and they're the ones that have organized presentations by departments, and it's a way of making certain that that a school committee focuses on education, at least some part of it does, on a regular basis. And we've had it for a while. It's been a little bit inactive, but I think it's been effective when somebody's decided to take the bit in their teeth and run with it.
Priscilla, that kinda sounds like something that you might be really good at. Are you interested in that?
I would be willing to do that.
Okay. Can I get one more?
Molly, just real quick. I know in the past we've gone down all these before, but I know in the past too we have said, you know, if you're interested, submit to you, and then the next meeting there would be a list of. I mean, we can go down each one. That's
Yeah, I'd
totally
like to go
fine.
down.
but-
We're all
okay.
right here. Let's do
Okay.
it.
All right. That's fine.
Is there anyone else interested?
I think I mentioned that.
Do you think
Wait,
Brenda would
Jack?
be still interested in being on it?
I hope so.
We could just appoint her. There we go. Well, it happens.
We're gonna
I'll be
put
there
Brenda
first time.
on and Jack.
Oh, and wait, Priscilla said yes.
Yep,
to that.
we got Priscilla.
Committee of
Okay.
three.
Building and grounds, I would like to be on that. That's right up my alley.
I'd like to continue on that as well, please.
Okay.
And Jack is also on it currently.
You've been sort of absentee this year, but I'm on it.
Okay.
I'd be on that.
Okay. So we have building and grounds, Molly, Colin, Jack, and Margot.
Okay.
Teacher negotiations.
We just skip budget.
Oh, sorry, I'm gonna skip budget. I will do budget. Jack, are you gonna do budget?
I figure it probably will.
I'll continue on that as well, please.
Mark, were you on that last time
I,
around?
I would like to address the chair, and I would be happy to serve on budget. I'm just counting quorum here.
Yeah.
And that is, if I'm on, that's 4 members, which would mean a 3-person quorum. If there's
Did
someone
Margaret say-
else who wants to be in, then it's easier to make that 3-person quorum. Otherwise, I would prefer to be ex officio, which means you go in and you run your yap, but you don't have a vote.
Don't you do that anymore?
I do.
Anyone can show up to the budget.
Madam Chair, as a general rule, my understanding has always been that all committees are, that we have that basically we're appointing voting members of the committee, but in fact, the rest of the board is welcome, and when it comes to things like budget, rather actively encouraged to participate, because budget sets more policy than almost anything but the policy committee, and it's good to know where your money's going, so it helps you, it helps explain to you why things run the way they do or sometimes don't.
I agree. So we have 3 right now,
Okay.
and anyone can join us. Teacher negotiations.
From the perspective of the current, until we reorganize SU chair, I would strongly appreciate putting Deb back on that committee, because she's been carrying much, if not most, of the load for that committee the last year.
I will
Deb, you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good
support
with that.
that.
Good. Do we need another?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you have one
Just
from
one per
each
board.
board.
Okay, perfect. Support staff.
Again,
Oh, good job, Deb.
Deb, my God.
one
You're
thing
getting
just
there.
rolls into the next.
I
so-
looked
Grammy
right
Award
at
this
David 'cause I
year.
thought it was him.
David is our SU representative,
Yeah.
and I don't know if he's nominating himself next time around, but I'm going to guess he might.
Okay, CIP team.
Oh, that's it.
Currently, it's
that?
Colin.
I'll
It's the continuous improvement.
Right,
I'll continue that.
program, yeah.
That's fine.
Is the P for program?
Plan,
Plan?
Plan.
Sorry,
continuous improvement plan, yep.
thank you.
We never really have
We haven't had
meetings,
much,
you know, we
really.
don't have
Like-
any updates
It's
on
like
it.
once a year.
Okay.
That should be, that'll be coming up in the springtime.
All right. Policy committee.
Madam Chair, we made a determination last year,
That
maybe even the
goes
year
through the
before that,
SU, right?
that we would send a representative, but that since we wanted to encourage policy to be an SU-wide
Mm-hmm.
thing, that be the process.
I would like to be the policy. I love that word.
Love that word. She loves that word, okay.
Currently, David and Colin are also on it.
I'm
Do we-
okay with.
Do we need more than one? One per
think so.
board.
I'm okay, Molly, for you taking the lead on that.
Okay. Are there any others, Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, we have some additionals. We have a transportation committee and an audit committee.
Yes,
Transportation and audit committee. I would do transportation.
What are the functions of an audit committee member responsibilities?
Well, seeing it, we just started. I
it's
think
the new one, yeah.
it's a new one.
It's the new one.
So it would be to work with the superintendent to,
Audit and business process, right? Isn't that what we're
Mr.
talking
Fine
about?
is.
audit and procedures of the business office.
Well, I would like to, now that that's been clarified, I would like to respond to that if I may. And that
Absolutely.
is to take note of the fact that Deb is in fact chairing what I refer to as the audit committee, but has a more formal name. What is that name again,
Audit
Deb?
and
Business systems analysis and audit committee.
Business practices,
No.
analysis, and audit.
No, there's no P in it,
That one.
but
Good job,
whatever, yeah.
Priscilla.
I'm calling it something different.
And it would seem to me to be logical that, because Deb is already doing that work, that she could represent this board. And as was pointed out during our discussion about a budget committee, any member of the board can certainly have participation.
The current committee.
Deb, are you
consists-
okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
We have, let's see, we have Jessa, Jack, right? Myself, and Priscilla,
Yeah,
Yep,
and Priscilla.
okay.
I would strongly support
Perfect.
having Priscilla on that committee.
Yep.
made
She said
really-
she'd like to be, so. All right. So we got audit committee is Deb and Priscilla and
And we have Jack and Jessa, so I'm assuming from,
Okay,
you're
'cause those are from
representing
the
from another,
SU.
your other school districts,
Yeah.
that I won't call
Okay.
it by thy name.
I think we
did.
did it all at the SU level.
did.
We never really appointed
Yeah.
people at the
That's-
school level.
Yeah.
We're making a bit of a change in the organization of it, sort of without announcing that we're making a change
Yeah.
in the organization of it, but that's fine. I don't think that's
It'll
a
still
big
work,
issue.
yeah.
Okay, can we adopt Robert's rules for small boards?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, you don't need a second.
That's right.
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 But we haven't adopted it yet.
Oh, we haven't adopted it yet.
Yeah.
So, by adopting Robert's rules for a small board means we do not need a second.
Right.
Correct.
Just something
Most
to hang
things,
out
yeah.
with. All those in favor of adopting Robert rules for small boards, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You got Netflix on? What are we
Oh.
I know, what is
I'm laughing at that
I
guy.
just keep, I'm just streaming something here, don't worry. Review and approve board minutes of February 19th.
I'll offer a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
There's a motion on the floor to accept the minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I was not there, so I'm gonna abstain.
We have made it to superintendent's report.
Okay, so to get started, I'll repass these around. These are just a packet I put together last year. They're more handy for a lot of new board members. So if you want one, just let me know and I'll get them to you. What they are is just, it's kind of just a packet of a little bit of everything. Robert Rules of Order, Rules of the School Board, and also the current structure of the different offices in the SU. So if anyone would like one of those, I'll have them here for you. I also have a sheet going around that everyone can sign, put their name and address on, so I can, makes it easier just to compile the board contact sheet.
I was just gonna say that Margot had brought up the fact that we all have email addresses through the SU.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I put my,
And
I
I
put
put
my
my
alternate down there,
personal one,
but
but-
we already have them.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we all should have at WNESU.com, and all official correspondence should at least be CC'd to that, and that's for your own legal protection, because you don't want to be in a situation where someone says there is something not in the official records, and that we need to do an auger of your hard drive. I think the reason for having the
Only if people need
both
'em.
may or may not be so that if people in the SU office need to contact us, and perhaps we've only got our iPhone on to our personal email, they can get through and catch us. The SU.org, the SU.coms are the ones that should be on the published website.
Correct, those are the ones that are published on the site, and I always, any correspondence I send to the board, I usually send to your SU email, unless you don't have one,
Yeah,
just to respect the process.
I couldn't remember exactly what the WNESU structure was.
First name,
Dot last name.
dot last
Oh, I
name.
got it right.
You had it, see?
Okay,
There you
yeah.
go.
it's also a Google structure, so frankly, you can put a lot of random dots in between them all, and it'll still get you.
What do you say? It's got some gaps in it there, Jack?
Yeah.
The only other thing, I just want to read a quick statement in regards to the novel coronavirus. So WNSU is keeping a close watch on the novel corona, and we will continue to keep the public informed as things continue to develop. WNSU is and will continue to follow all recommendations and guidance from the state and the CDC. At this point, Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union has no reported cases of the virus and is being as proactive as possible to make sure that all recommendations and guidance from the state and the CDC is being followed. I put daily updates and resources on the WNSU website and Facebook page and will continue to do so. Last week, all students were sent home with an information and steps that the schools will put in place if needed. Anyone at home, if you have not received that information, please contact your student's school.
Thank you.
Yes.
There were
Madam Chair, one of the things that I've been involved recently with some material having to do with both Vermont and State Department of Health on some of this issue, and I would just urge all parties that are responsible for it that the biggest thing we can do is clean surfaces, doorknobs, and desktops like this are a real thing. Also, large community events. This might be a small one, but the rule still applies that they should be cleaned before people come to a show, or if they come and come to a meeting. And I know that's an extra step, but particularly with people that are older and perhaps more vulnerable, and I'll speak for myself on this one, it's really important. You know, I had to argue with my doctor about attending any more meetings this week, and so I'm just kind of asking for me and for everybody else that's over 65 with bad lungs. We really got to pay attention to this stuff.
Yeah, the schools and the SU office are all taking all precautions that is needed to keep, disinfecting the buildings and also the buses. So all the administration, myself, and the school nurses are meeting tomorrow to discuss further about different procedures or protocols that we may or may not have to put in place, especially around if the state decides to, close down the schools for any period of time. We want to make sure that we have an education plan in place for students and families. So we'll be meeting on that tomorrow.
Like I said, I'm just asking for indulgence in the hard surfaces thing, because, it's like when we've had really bad flu epidemics run through here. A lot of that's preventable if we can keep the tabletops, desktops, and doorknobs clean. You'd be amazed the difference it makes.
And washing of hands is extremely important.
That as well. But
I'm
if
sure
you get
the-
clean hands, you set them on a crappy table, you're back where you were.
Back at it.
I can't speak for the principal, but I'm sure he's.
Web, and somebody from Claremont was exposed, and now the children in the Claremont school are all being watched because she has been asked to stay home for 2 weeks. So it is getting closer.
Well, the one of those people works for the hospital, who should have known better and showed up at a major function, at Tuck function, and basically took Tuck school offline for 2 weeks.
Right.
So that's the kind of stuff we want to avoid.
Any other?
And no more Corona beer.
That's not true. I had one Saturday.
Hard cider only around here.
Any other questions or comments?
We each
TV's
fight
picking
in
up
our own
second
way.
as we're going on.
Second delay to get Jack's laughing.
It's even funny the second time. Okay. Mr. Pratt, is that all?
That is it for now. The rest of my report is online for the public or anyone else who wants to review it.
We are ready for principal's report.
So, because we have the viewing audience, I'm going to read through my report, and my first topic is this current topic, so I'll give it to you from the building perspective. As the world addresses the issues associated with COVID-19, we are also being attentive to the potential impacts of the spread of this disease on our school. A couple of concrete steps and actions that we have taken include: one, conducting a detailed assessment of our abilities to keep the learning moving forward from a distance if the school is closed for an extended period of time, and two, increasing the frequency and thoroughness of our cleaning and disinfecting of areas and surfaces that are high traffic areas for potential spreading of diseases. With regard to bullet point number 1 above, I surveyed the staff last week with some specific questions related to each teacher's ability to deliver the goods without being in the same building as their students. I then shared those results of that survey with the staff and directed each teacher to make concrete plans for this possibility. With regard to point number 2, I have met with Jim DeBell and the custodial staff members who are responsible for cleaning the building to develop a plan to cover the most important surfaces multiple times each day with disinfectant cleaners. In all matters related to COVID-19, especially when decisions need to be made or actions need to be taken, I consult with our school nurse, the Vermont Department of Health, the central office, and the CDC before deciding on a course of action. It's all the news to fit to print on COVID-19 here at the building, and as Mr. Pratt said, there's information on the district's website if you're looking for that. Number 2, Update on the driveway parking lot replacement project. As many of you already know, this past town meeting day did not result in a conclusion of yes or no on the topic of the $1 million bond for the work to be done on the driveway and parking areas around the school. That is because this article did not make it onto the ballot in Rockingham, and that was due to an error in the Rockingham town offices, not due to any mistake on the part of the WNESU offices. That's the bad news. The good news is that the article did appear on the ballots of the other 3 towns in the district. Better yet, in just the results from voting in Westminster and Grafton, because I haven't seen the results from Athens. The article,
Overwhelming.
I'm sure. This article passed handily by over 500 votes. It appears that the voters are in favor of this project, so I'm very optimistic that come mid-May, which is when this article will be considered by Rockingham, we will have the borrowing authority that we are seeking. After that, the next steps are: 1, apply for and obtain the $1 million bond. 2, go out to bid for the engineering work for the project. 3, work with the designated engineering firm to create bid specs and documents for the project. 4, put the project out to bid. And 5, award the bid to the contractor. Because it is unlikely that we can take any of these steps until the vote in Rockingham, although I will say we can move forward a little bit if we choose to, but not in a way that's going to necessarily significantly improve the timetable. It is now highly unlikely that this project will happen this summer. Work will most likely need to happen in the summer of 2021. Should this fluid process change, I will keep you all in the loop. Any questions on any of that?
What steps can you take prior to having the?
We talked about that a little bit. Well, I've talked about it with our office staff and here just before we started, but technically we could probably go out to bid on the engineering part of this. And so therefore, we could have bids for that work in hand on the day that we feel like we can spend money on this. So clearly we can't go to get a contract for an engineering firm if we don't know that we've got the money. So the day after Rockingham votes, if we choose to, we could then award that. But even then, that's mid-May, they're gonna have to do enough work to put together bid specs and documents, which then puts the contract out, the work out to bid, and that goes out to bid on that timetable super optimistically, like beginning of June. And then we have to award that bid, but at that point, it is highly unlikely we would be able to pin down contractors for work that's gonna start a week after that, so.
My thinking is simply that the only good thing that we're getting out of this emerging epidemic is interest rates that are hitting 0.
And that doesn't, so I would say as soon as we get the borrowing authority, we can act on that.
You can still borrow, you just can't
Exactly.
spend it till
That's exactly it. So that we can do, but we still can't do that until we get the authority to borrow. And the upside, if we're looking at the glass half full on this, is the timing now makes it possible for us to go out to bid for the actual project itself January, February, when ideally multiple contractors will still be available for the summer, and therefore we got a more competitive bid process. So,
Colin, do you have your hand up?
I do. Is there, have you discussed this or thought about this, not knowing that, it wasn't on the ballot, but is there an alternative, not alternative, but is there, well, yes, that is the word I was looking for just, patching it, making it, I know we've done several patches
here's what will happen.
before,
What
but...
will happen is the holes are going to get filled in to cover us for the next year, just like we've done in the past. So we'll get hot patches done. We are looking at the possibility of, through budgeted money, doing some work on the water that flows down from the back driveway of Hadley Field, which is what typically pools down here, and then this time of year, repeated driving over is what causes all those holes to happen. So, so we're going to look at maybe taking on small parts of this with monies that are available and do some of that. But,
Okay.
Number 3, winter sports season. This year was one of the most successful winter sports seasons that we've had many years. Both basketball teams were seeded high enough in the Division III state tournament to have home playoff games. Both teams won their first playoff games, and both teams lost in the second round of the playoffs. In indoor track, we had 2 individual state champions. One was Jonathan Cameron in the shot put, And the second one was Abby Broadley in the 3,000 meter race. And so we're very proud of those two individuals. Additionally, this winter we had two seniors reach the 1,000-point mark in basketball. Taylor Goodell for the girls and Ryan Kelly for the boys, which again is one of those huge marks to reach in a high school basketball career. Overall, a great winter sports season. Congratulations to all of our winter sport athletes. And then finally, Mamma Mia! The Bellows Falls Union High School Drama Club proudly presents its spring musical Mamma Mia!, the stage version of the popular movie by the same name. The show is based upon the music of the band ABBA, and as I look around here, all of you people had an 8-track or cassette tape of ABBA at some
I
point.
don't know about an 8-track there,
All right.
Mr. Hudson, but
Or, I put an or out
what's
there.
that?
I have vinyl. Can't rob that.
So everyone's going to want to come out for that to hear your favorite ABBA songs. The show times are Friday, March 13th at 7 p.m. and Saturday, March 14th. Matinee at 2, evening show at 7. Come on, come all. As always, it will be awesome. That's all I got.
Thank you. I don't believe there's any committee reports, correct, Mr. Pratt?
I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Clark, would you like to do a WNESU board meeting review?
Well,
Or-
we've had so many WNESU
Like
after
board
the
meetings
executive
that
session.
it is difficult to pick one particular highlight. I guess what I would say is that the WNESU board has decided that we need outside help in order to understand some of the issues that affected payroll beginning in the fall and apparently continued possibly even into this early part of January. In that regard, the WNESU ultimately decided last Wednesday to hire the law firm that we have on retainer to advise schools within the district. That's Lynn, Blackman, and Minitsky. We asked them to come in and conduct interviews in the office and see if we can understand what caused the failures which occurred so that we can take steps to make sure they don't happen again. I want to also say that Superintendent Pratt has been very proactive in terms of meeting the urgent and day-to-day needs of activity in the business office. He has conducted a reorganization, which we discussed at the last meeting. I have to say that Chris could explain it to you, and I can't. I will simply note the fact that R.H.R. Smith, who are the auditors, also has a consulting division, and a couple of R.H.R. Smith consultants have been assisting with some of the ongoing operations in the business office. And I will state it's simply my opinion that the payroll issues that were plaguing us for a number of months, I actually believe those are in the rear view mirror. And the larger question really going forward will be, I believe, around the security of our technology infrastructure. And once again, some very concrete steps have been taken to begin to address that. So we've had some hard knocks. We're back on our feet. And as always in the WNESU, continue to be punching above our weight.
Thank you.
That's my report.
Any unfinished business? Any new business? No appointments? Director's comments. Deb?
Wash your hands.
Margot?
I'll echo that.
Stephen?
Can I ask that young man a question?
Absolutely. Is it gonna be nice?
I'm always nice.
Okay.
Don't believe it, just ask me. When is all of these investigations gonna start?
I don't know if there's a start date, Steve. Do you know, Chris?
I'll be reaching out to the lawyers tomorrow to set up times to see when they can come in and start interviewing.
And what is it going to end in? A report as to who is responsible?
It will end in a report. If there's individual responsibility, I would anticipate that the boards would have that explained to them. But one of the reasons that we have investigators coming in from Lynn, Blackman, and Minitsky, or linlaw.com for short, is because we really, at this point in time, don't have a complete understanding of the dynamic. And we're hopeful that that will help us get there.
Do you find that because we don't really have an understanding of the dynamics, and because we're trying to investigate the question of who may be responsible, does that undercut in any way the firing of Rhonda?
Well, I am not in a position to make a direct connection between the current investigation and Rhonda's firing. And what I would like to point out is that we are aware, based on the business consultant Marilyn Frederick, who came in and had a look at business office systems, we are aware that we are missing 9 years worth of payroll data. And the question arises, is the 9 years of payroll data still in our system and we can't access it? We have to bear in mind the fact that we have had no end of problems with a low bid statewide education accounting system, which is now on its 15th revision in 18 months, which is certainly doesn't augur well for it. And there, it could be some individual responsibility on the part of members of our staff, past or current. It could be issues with payroll. It could be issues with the fact that we don't have a full grasp of how to apply our technology. It could be a combination of all three of the above. We simply don't know, but we feel it's incumbent on us to have the answers, because ultimately we're responsible to our constituents, the voters and the taxpayers, to make sure that this district runs efficiently and we can account for how we spend the money.
Well, my comment is that it seems to me that everything you're saying undercuts completely the fact that all of the blame here was put on Rhonda. And now all of a sudden we're finding that, hey, maybe there's some other problems here, and let's do an investigation. And maybe that investigation, David, ought to have been done before Rhonda got so ignominiously discharged from her position. That's my comment.
Mr. Breyer?
3 points. First one is that in numerous public sessions of the supervisory union board and meetings, including the big public ones we had out in the auditorium, we did speak to the fact that the problems that we were dealing with were, as problems always are, multi-point. There were some staffing questions. There was clearly known way back a problem with the e-finance accounting software. We discussed it in an open session here and an open session at both the SU meetings and at our smashed together district meetings repeatedly. So there's no such thing as one error, there was say, in quality control, and this is the case where we think that's the case here. Point one. Point two, some of the heroic work that's been done to pull this together has been done by our superintendent, who's been more or less living up in the accounting office in the last little while, and is really probably is rapidly becoming more hands-on with our business processes than the average business manager, and I think he ought to be recognized for that. He's been putting in kind of ridiculous hours in the last several months trying to put this together, and I think we should recognize that and compliment the fact that he's doing all that. And the third is, hey Brenda, when are you coming back? This whole board misses you.
You said 2.
I said
Is that
three.
David.
Okay. I always appreciate Steve Fine asking the hard questions because it certainly helps me understand them just a little bit better.
Colin?
It's a new year for this board because tonight, as we reorganized our board again for 2020, so I look forward to working with each and every one of you. I think we, for the most part, do the best we can for the school and for the community, and I look forward to working with you. And congratulations to winter sports as well. It's a great year for the sports program here at Bellows Falls.
Thank you. I believe that we need a motion to go into executive session to discuss a business personnel matter. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I will move that motion.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Sorry, Priscilla.
Priscilla.
Okay, hold on. Let me turn you
geez.
back up.
We forgot.
Priscilla, your comments.
I wanted to say that I think the restructuring of the business office, we are making some progress forward, and it will help us to know more about the problems with the business office. So I think we need to appreciate that Mr. Pratt has gone ahead with doing some of that and is getting to the bottom of it. And it will definitely give us more insight than what we've got. And I want to thank you for letting me participate this way.
Oh.
I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Thank you. Yes, Deb.
Point of order. I did this at another previous meeting where Mr. Fine was on phone and everyone had to say their names. Technically, according to the statute, you must say your name when making a motion. Not when making a motion per se, but as in voting on the motion. Everyone, and we should have done that the entire meeting. I apologize for missing that, although I'm sure you appreciate it. But we should do it with this one.
Okay, so
I moved the motion that we go into an executive session, so I, Colin, James.
so all those in favor of going into executive session to discuss a business personnel matter. David Clark.
David Clark, aye.
Colin James, aye.
Deborah Wright, aye.
Margot Gia, aye.
Are we inviting the administration?
Are
Or
we?
is this without them?
Yes, we are inviting the administration.
Fine.
Mr. Fine, are you voting yes?
Mr. Fine says fine.
Jack Breyer says fine too, just in solidarity.
Molly Vanek says aye. We are going into executive
Don't forget
session.
Priscilla.
Oh, Priscilla.
Thank
So
you.
are you a yes or a fine?
She's- All right, we're going, Priscilla. Hold on.
We're moving here.
Phone gonna last that long, Molly?
I'm on like 4%.
If it dies,